This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stock Box interview. Hello and welcome back to Research Talks on Stockbox with Alan Green on again a Friday at the end of the week, and I believe it's been a bit of a busy morning for you, Alan, anyway.
It certainly has, Mark. Yes. Good morning, by the way. Normally Friday for us is a reasonably gentle run downhill into the weekend, but this morning has been anything but, with the added complication that we are selling my mother's house and she's moving. So today is supposed to be exchange day, and that hasn't quite worked out either. But anyway, I'm sure things will fall into place at some point during the day. So,
hopefully.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Okay. Yes, good. Well, it's been a bit of a more quieter week at Stockbox compared to last week, so I don't know, maybe you never know, do you? Though I can say it's the August lull, but you never know. Next week could be crazy again. Certainly, I'm getting the feeling, though, that sentiment is perhaps returning, liquidity is perhaps coming back. Just talking to a few people and brokers, you can just we've talked about this before, where you just sort of feel it. You can't really explain it, but it's more of a feeling. And I think that's what's coming around. I'm seeing some more personalities who disappeared on Twitter coming back, or X. Sorry, Elon. It's X now, isn't it? So some of those investors from a while ago seem to be coming back. So could be a sign of things to come as we head into September. But today we're going to be covering Metals One. So they listed only last week, I think. So not long ago at all. And also Truspine, who I know we've covered before, but we'll get a bit of an update. So you want to start us off with Metals One?
Certainly, yes. Metals One, as you rightly say, Mark, was admitted to AIM on July 31st, so a few days ago. And it's good to see, companies coming to market in the resource space. It's been a challenging period for resource companies, and we've spoken on many occasions about companies bumping along the bottom and when will the valuations be realized. But I think what we're seeing with this listing from Metals One is that the sector is alive and well, and also investors are seeing value and they're getting involved in IPOs like this, which have quality projects as part of their asset portfolio. And certainly, I've taken a detailed look at Metals One following the placing by Shard Partners, which of course brought the company to market. So the company's got trades on the EPIC code MET1, IPO'd at 5p with a market capitalization of 10.4 million. So there are now 208,450,000 shares in issue. 44 million shares were issued with the raising 2.2 million, and that worked out to 1.7 million net. So that's gone into Met One coffers to help it develop what are some very exciting projects. So the company is engaged in 2 European brownfield battery metals projects. There's approximately 9 million of exploration carry-through expense through farm-in agreements, which I'll come to shortly. But these projects are either adjacent to or analogous to other world-class high-purity deposits, added to which they are geographically very well positioned to supply European or European EV manufacturers or OEMs and battery manufacturers and so on. And obviously, we hear all the time about projects in Europe doing that. Of course, we've got the Sinovac lithium and tin project, and these are to the north. The first project is the Black Schist project in Finland, and this is it's located adjacent to Talvivaara. And Talvivaara is Europe's largest operating nickel mine. Metals One here has operatorship of the project and also initially 100% ownership. And the Black Schist project has an inferred minerals resource estimate, or MRE, of 28.1 million tons of what are referred to as Tal Vivara style deposits. Now these equate and come down to their component parts. They equates to 53,800 tons of nickel, 27,900 tons of copper, 3,500 tons of cobalt, and 180,000 tons of zinc. And that's at one of the two projects that make up the black schist asset portfolio, and that's at Rautavaara, which is to the north of Tal Vivara, and then to the south we have Paltamo, and Paltamo has a JORC target of between 16 and 24 million tons, again of Tal Vivara style deposits, which equate to either is somewhere between 0.18 and 0.27% nickel, just around 1% copper, just a very small amount of cobalt again, and between 0.3 and 0.5% zinc. Paltamo also includes further exploration targets across the Kainuu schist belt. So there's an awful lot to go for. So the money that's been raised for black schist will go towards purchase of equipment and mobilization. It'll go towards further exploration of the existing data. It will go towards undertaking geophysical and geochemical surveys, ultimately diamond drilling once those targets have been established through those surveys. And there's also potential around the area for further license applications, and of course, at that point, establishing preliminary and upgraded mineral resource estimates. Now, the process will also see Met1, as it progresses, reduce its holding down to 75%. And this is through a farming partnership with Gunsynd. Of course, Gunsynd will be familiar to a lot of listeners. And Gunsynd will provide some 1 million funding over the life of the project, and that will eventually see Met1's stake reduced to 75%. But of course, with the money Gunsynd will be spending, we will see a lot of value and a lot of additional expansion of the project through the additional mineral resource estimates come to fruition. So yeah, a very exciting project there in Finland, and we'll I'm sure be hearing much more about that from the team as we go forward. And again, we've seen with IPOs, they come to market. There's a raft of information. First Class Metals is a very good example of how to IPO a company in this market. And I think arguably First Class Metals came to market last summer in a more difficult market than we have today. So good to see this. Good to see Met1 coming to market. So the second project is in Norway. So to the west, of course, of Finland, and this is it's called a brownfield Rana project, or the Rana project, which is a brownfield project where Met1 has an 80% non-operating interest. Now, in terms of comparisons, of course, we've spoken about various projects being compared to existing mines with similar geology. This is analogous to the Voisey Bay world-class nickel, copper, and PGM deposit in Newfoundland. So its geology, its layout is very similar in that regard, and there is potential there for massive sulfides, nickel, copper, cobalt sulfides inland, which circles a former operating mine, the Bruvan underground nickel mine. So there's an existing mine in place, and the company has the license on the land there with operator, the site operator Kinrose, which is an ASX listed company, and Kinrose has the right to earn up to 75% over 8 years, but it has to spend 15 million Australian dollars in the process to develop the project. So at this stage, Met1 has an 80% non-operating interest, but that interest will reduce in time. So the plans for or to develop the brownfield or the Rana project, the brownfield project here is that an audio magnetic geophysical survey will be undertaken. Also, airborne electromagnetic surveys will be undertaken. Then further mapping, core studies, XRF studies, and obviously you can get these handheld PXRF machines, which will give you instant analysis on the ground. And what this will enable the Met1 and Kingrose to do is to build a 3D model of the asset. So the company can have a better understanding of the site and the mineralization through this 3D model, and of course then move forward, further groundwork, establish drill targets, and so on. So I mentioned Kingrose will have the opportunity to earn in what that over the 8-year period, and once it's spent the 50 million Australian dollars, Kingrose will eventually hold 75%. Met1 will ultimately hold 15%, and also Global Energy Metals, a TSX listed company, will hold a further 10%. So a very exciting series of projects there, and of course you don't need me to explain the potential for battery metals and for assets in this area. There's huge potential to sell into or sell these minerals into the space. And of course, bearing in mind that Russia's now been taken out of the world market, but you've got many world-class operating mines that can no longer sell into the world market. That really increases the urgency to find these quality projects that can sell into operating, certainly the EV and battery operating hubs within Europe and around the world. So before I finish on Met1, just a word on the board of directors. Jonathan Owen is the CEO there. He's a mining engineer with 10 years experience, working on many gold, diamond, industrial metal and gas projects, an associate of Camborne School of Mines, of course. Alistair Clayton, non-exec chairman, who's a corporate financier and geologist. And it's good to see those two key positions in the company held by geologists. And I think this is key, because when you've got an operating team, the people that are in charge of the operations of the company and their finances, both geologists understanding exactly what they've got in these two assets, that's, for me, it's hugely key going forward. Significantly, Alistair also has a lot of experience in Finland, which is key too. We've got Dan Mailing, who's the CFO, he's a specialist in the natural resource and technology sectors. We have a number of non-exec directors. Craig Moulton, well-known geologist, mineral economist with over 30 years experience working for companies like Rio, Cliffs, Wood and Mackenzie. And also Thomas Levin, a Finnish geologist, and Wilton Walesi, who has worked for many ASX-listed companies, and also is the representative of the Norwegian Brownfield Rana project on Metal One's board. So there's a very experienced board there with a great cross section of experience, and I think the company is still trading at slightly below the IPO price. I think we're currently, as I speak, trading at 4.5p. So fully boots, I think this is going to be a great company, and I think if Mark, as we said at the start, this hoped for upturn does come, then Metals One, I'm sure, will benefit greatly from that upswing in the market.
Well, I tell you what I liked about Metals One was their strapline: battery metals in Europe for Europe. So I think that's that's a big issue, isn't it? Is securing supply chains of I know the Americans like the homegrown idea quite strongly, a very patriotic bunch, but Europe doesn't really have much natural resources anyway. So if there are some, few and far between in the places of Scandinavia, then what a great place for Metals One to be securing that and hopefully providing that to the European Union for the net zero revolution, let's say. Yeah. I think their focus is the one, isn't it? And Norway is a free carry effectively, so it's only
it is, yeah,
pretty much de-risked for them anyway.
It's totally de-risked, yeah. But I think these two projects, and I'm sure in time, other quality projects will come to the fore that the group may well get involved with too. But certainly the Black Ships project is the key. But then these free carry projects, we've seen with, I know we spoke about Cadence Minerals the other day, Mark, and that's I think Cadence Minerals have really skillfully made the most of those sort of arrangements. With the free carry, with the Yanjamana Rare Earths project, for example, and others. These companies get involved, and then of course eventually that converts into stock in the company, the involvement leads to a lucrative return much further down the road. So I'm sure for Met One, they've got a very well thought through strategy, and as I also said as well, I'm sure they'll be aware of the fact that they need to get on the ground, start delivering news flow, start delivering progress, so investors can see the value add as it progresses.
Indeed, and I do like the fact they're in Norway. Well, that other project where they have the free carriers in Norway, because as we know, the Norwegians have that sovereign wealth fund. That all came from the oil boom that they had there. They did look after that very well and kept a lot of that money within the country, and I think gave it to citizens, didn't they? Because they had decided they had too much money in the coffers. But talking to Metals One the other day, the CEO was telling me that the oil is drying up, and the government there are really keen to get into other exploratory areas such as critical metals. And I think if oil is anything to go by as an example of the Norwegian government support for natural resource exploration in country, then I expect a similar sort of story coming out going forward. So that is it's good jurisdiction, I think, to do business in. So
it is, yeah, very much.
Nice to hear about Metals One. It's I think it's homegrown in Europe. It's one to check out a bit more, I think, and see how they go. Now they can really crack on with their plans. Okay, Truspine then, Alan. So a little bit of different focus now.
Yeah, this is so Truspine. We of course spoke a few months ago about Truspine, Mark, and this Truspine operate in a sector which is growing, and it's hugely important. It's of course the global spinal devices market. Currently, this is estimated to be worth some $10 billion per annum, and it's estimated to grow at a compound growth rate of some 3% through to 2026. So it's a growing marketplace. Something like 1.62 million instrumented spinal procedures are carried out every year, and North America, of course, currently accounts for approximately 54% of those operations. So this, of course, is for Truspine by far the most important market. And also, this is costing the economy there a huge amount of money. Healthcare and indirect costs due to back pain estimated to be worth over $12 billion per year. So it's something that's extremely important to get fixed. And in order to do this, Truspine own the IP. They own the IP for three products: Servilock, which is a screw-free spinal stabilization system. It's used in the cervical spine and minimizes risk of vertebral artery injury. And of course, that if there is an injury to the vertebral artery, that's when that can lead to brainstem stroke or nerve root and spinal cord injury. There's Truspine have a very good website. If you go to Truspine, Truspine.org, look up the spinal fixation devices, you can see the illustrations there show very clearly how Servilock works. And these are anchors that are secured to the posterior of vertebrae, and linking them together just creates a simple stabilization framework, if you like. But it's minimal, minimally invasive, and has been well proven. The second product that Truspine own the IP to is the grasp laminoplasty system. And again, this doesn't require the use of any screws, and the system basically grasps the laminae using the Servilock anchor, which allows the system to expand the bony spinal canal. And of course, this is where a lot of spinal and back problems occur. Pressure on the spinal cord, which creates the problems and creates problems in other parts of the body. So this process relieves pressure and expands the spinal canal, relieving pressure from the spinal cord. The third system rather is Fascilock, and this Fascilock uses anatomic features on the posterior aspect of the lumbarothoracic vertebrae, or vertebrae that can be used to apply grasping anchors. And again, it helps to stabilize the posterior spine, or the posterior areas of the spine. And this process, or these processes, have caused a huge amount of interest, particularly in the USA. And the company has been seeking to develop this through applying to the FDA. And in a landmark development, the company announced on July 25th that it had submitted its application, or completed the FDA 510(k) submission for Servilock, which will basically be transformational for the company. The FDA has up to 90 days to approve Servilock. If it is approved, or if clearance is received from the FDA, then it will mean that the company can start to market and sell the Servilock product. Sales revenue generation will, of course, be potentially transformational for the company. This is something that Lawrence Strauss, the chief executive, and his team have been pushing hard to achieve. So we obviously have to wait for 90 days, but the share price for Truspine certainly rose on the news. In fact, it nearly doubled. The shares have had a pretty difficult year, but we're trading at a penny. They jumped to 1.9p after the news, so I think there's a sense of anticipation in the market that the company will be able to get this across the line. But of course, we won't know for 90 days, and of course, investors will be sort of waiting to hear about that news. So onto the board. The company has undergone a difficult year. It recently repaid a loan from a former director, Annabelle Schild. The money she lent the company, £100,000, that was repaid on receipt of an HMRC research and development tax credit of around £200,000. So for now, the company has limited working capital, but of course it will need to raise further monies going forward. Of that, there is no doubt. So Lawrence Strauss came into the company back in March this year, and he's had a bit of a battle since he arrived. But there was a shareholder requisition meeting, and the motions that were tabled to change the purpose of the company were overturned, and the team have continued. That's under Lawrence Strauss to progress the FDA application, and of course, that really is a milestone event for the company. And I'm sure if they're successful with this application, then there will be plans around developing the other products and taking them in a similar direction. So just a word on the rest of the board. Of course, Norman Lott is the group CFO. He's worked for many other AIM-listed companies, and has been involved in numerous M&A transactions, has a lot of experience in the sector. And also non-exec director, Dr. Tim Evans, qualified in 1979 from Westminster Hospital Medical School, and he was in 2003. He was appointed to the position of apothecary to Her Majesty the Queen and Royal Households of London. So, an awful lot of experience in the medical field, and also non-exec director, Dr. Nick Patel, consultant neurosurgeon and honorary senior clinical lecturer at the Institute of Clinical Neurosciences in Bristol. Under Lawrence Strauss, the team are pushing the company forward, and we're waiting to hear now about the outcome of the FDA application, and if of course that happens, it's going to be all change for Truspine, and a very exciting investment proposition. There is an awful lot of investor interest in this company, and that's both on the retail front and the institutional front, and I think under Lawrence's stewardship, we will see this company turn around and start to deliver value into what is a huge marketplace.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much, Alan, for presenting us there the investment case for both Truspine and Metals One, and have a pleasant weekend.
Thank you, Mark, and you too.
If you enjoyed this interview, then give us a thumbs up, a like or a retweet. Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Twitter, and hit that notification bell to be the first to know when we release new content. There's loads of great content on our website too, across all our programs at stopboxmedia.com. Thank you for watching.